Hello there, this is the official Nova Top Flex YouTube channel. In this video, I will be speaking about, this isn't really tech news because it's more than a month old. However, a lot of what I'm about to talk about that comes prior to June 21st is very influential and still sets the stone for the modern day news that continues to come out of the XLibre mailing list, especially because XLibre is an ongoing project. So, let's get started. First, from specifically the questions about X11 Libre X server and platform support thread. So now let me actually go to this thread. So this thread is about, so basically how I explain it is, so the first person saw a video of the X11 Libre project as of about June 10th and was interested in knowing the scope of the project. So the scope of the project, eventually what happened was that Windows X11 Libre was successfully built with MinGW and attempted with the MinGW W64 fork. On Linux, there were questions about targeting Muscle systems, not glibc, but Muscle, MUSL, including the Alpine Linux distro. As of mid-June 2025, XLibre was successfully added to Artix Linux. Galaxy-Goblins as of mid-June again. There were concerns about the Arch Linux distro that Artix is related to, Artix and then Arch. Arch is a distro that, as you may already know, tends not to contribute back like certain other distros. So this is anything else I'm missing from the mailing list. Well, this continues on to June 29th, and as of June 29th, questioning continued regarding the XLibre and how to use it, X11, XLibre disputes, and this thread doesn't talk much about Wayland at all. Although Wayland is also part of the dispute, it is not questioned on this thread. I, Nova Top Flex, had actually attempted to compile XLibre from source, but didn't know how to at one point because I believed it was Mason and Ninja and whatnot. It had different possibilities. When I saw it, I did use ls and some other commands to determine, but I saw multiple conflicting build patterns and build methods needed. So basically, it said that Mason and Ninja, I had tools from Build Essential and related packages for Mason and Ninja. However, while there is Mason information, there is no Ninja information, even though they're related. This was as of June 11th. And then eventually, a namespace overlay was identified on Gen 2 Linux, with fixes identified for GCC 14 on Gen 2 systems. By the way, my attempt to compile XLibre from source was using Ubuntu Linux, with Git repositories, including ls and related tools. I even was lucky to have the bashit interface. So bashit is what is available to optimize your bash scripting workflow. Anything else about it? I don't believe so. This is not much on this thread either. There was no talk on, I believe there might have been talk on Wayland on this one. And then Stormux is an accessibility Linux distro. It's specifically tailored for accessibility. And some people criticized it because it's meant for the blind, but it uses Wayland? Really? So this is about specifying screen drivers. So on this email, on this thread, so Stormux, the goal for Stormux was to make XLibre the default X installation. At that point, June 11th, there were packages already in the AUR Arch user repository and everything's built smoothly because Stormux is based on Arch. And then so cat 10-headlist.conf, this is just to list the contents of the files. Use cat for the headless and for the screen. And the .conf files, it's supposed to be in /etc/x11/xorg.conf.d. And yes, this person was using a patched version of XF86 video dummy. Basically, I think it's X386 related. This is actually, X386 is an ancestor of, I think it's X386 becomes S386 becomes X11 or Xorg. I'm not sure. It's very confusing. We often confuse X11 and Xorg. And then, now, we have XLibre. But if I remember correctly, XLibre is a fork of Xorg rather than of X11. It's still considered X11, I believe, but yes. Now, it shows everything about the sections and end sections, mode lines. This is about the log, the content log, how to specify screen drivers. So similar contents were identified at xorg 0.log on this person's, on this system, on these systems, uppercase X, by the way, and it is related to the KiCad concerns I'm about to speak about soon. The KiCad is the computer-aided design specifically for hardware and circuitry, and I know that the KiCad developers also warned us about the risks of using Wayland and why Xorg is so much better. Segmentation fault when starting. So someone built this XLibre with modified PKG build, package build variables on Arch Linux. The error was just the lack of the Xterm terminal emulator. Start X from the Xorg xinit package on Arch Linux without a start X script or xinit RC file caused the problem in this case. So built with modified package build variables. Sorry for any interruptions, but it's normal to have different times and to record this video in different sections. So if you've noticed an interruption or if you've noticed a sudden change in sound, that's just because I might have to temporarily pause and resume recording. But again, built with modified package build on Arch Linux, error was a lack of Xterm actually. So the issue was apparently start X from this package without a script or an xinitrc.xinitrc file, but in reality the segmentation fault was because there was no Xterm, and specifically no Xterm, rather than any others like LXterm or UXterm or URXVT or RXVT Unicode. It is about specifically Xterm. I'm going to find the source of the segmentation fault when starting on the XLibre. So this was inside of a QEMU virtual machine, meaning that, well, QEMU is about virtual machines, both system mode and user mode. I am also familiar with using QEMU, though I haven't also done the XLibre. When I did compile, it was on a native system, unfortunately. Probably not the best idea. However, the truth is that Xterm is the terminal emulator, and the X server itself doesn't try to start any clients on its own. So this is about XLibre, and then xinitrc, start X, and elsewhere. So now, on June 12th, there was a sudden ban of XLibre on freedesktop.org. A master history rewrite was required by maintainer, and the master branch became the authoritative branch. Maintenance became the branch upon major release and subsequent minor releases. The ABI must not be broken for minor release updates and only for major ones. All commits to major releases must be signed off except for drafts. But that is the standard convention anyway. And this was about the project censorship. There was censorship and there were frequent bans, all related to the use of having this XLibre. So this is related to, so the thread is called Heads Up, Branch Changes and MR Policies. And this is about what happens each time there is censorship. So, yeah. Very unfortunate. I attempted to do something with it, although not directly to the lists, but yes. A lot of the tactics seem to be retaliatory, in my honest opinion, especially back in the early days, back in June. So now, yeah, not too much beyond this slide on here. So what are the current benefits of using XLibre over Xorg? So according to KiCad developers, XLibre is a logical continuation of X11 retaining compatibility, otherwise broken by Wayland. It is not about the software, it is about the display server, and it is about the motives causing us to use Wayland, forcing us to use Wayland, making Linux less fully featured, and essentially downgrading the user experience by forcing Wayland. Because I understand, I use X11 a lot because it is more powerful than Wayland. Software package features often require Xorg/X11, and supported software may lose functionality under Wayland. Like, I know the Gwake drop-down terminal, I can use Gwake under Wayland, but workspace-specific tabs are only available using X11, or Xorg or XLibre or whatnot. So KMS grab on FFmpeg says cap sysadmin plus EP app to record and navigate between virtual terminals. Not necessarily compatible, but the experience was less obvious with XLibre than under traditional Xorg. However, when I do FFmpeg, I already know that it's probably better to use, well, I definitely do not use KMS grab. I use X11 grab when I record using FFmpeg. And that is perfectly compatible and should be okay no matter what, honestly. So now, what I'm going to look for is just additional information about the benefits. The benefit of the doubt about XLibre versus Xorg. So this was about the KiCad devs. Use X11. Wayland is bad by design, and unfortunately, it came to drama eventually in some ways, just like a whole lot of the rest, but yes. So it starts with the KiCad developers, and then it's very unfortunate that they just talk about the took journalists in a way. However, Markdown articles were created by KiCad developers and their team, and then the truth is, unfortunately, that there was drama in the KiCad situation. And then yes, just about testing their application on XLibre, and maybe even endorsing XLibre as a benefit over Wayland. So the truth is, again, it's mostly drama after the very beginning, unfortunately, because, well, there's a lot of drama in the tech industry at this point. There are way too many comments and honestly, so many distractions. I actually do my work on Linux and make sure that I don't really worry about what other people think. So there was since a third article created by the team that highlights the extent of how hypocritical this is. Xorg is doing what X386 did that caused them to exist in the first place. And then XLibre is basically what happened to Xorg, very similarly, possibly even more hostile compared to the X386 days. Actually, X386 came from X386 from even earlier. And there are often confusions between Xorg and X11 from very many articles. Even I've confused Xorg and X11 for very many times. So the truth is that people keep saying, and even I have been called AI for this, so people keep making excuses that they use a different AI. So yes, and a lot of the people on these, so because this is an open source project, the rule is typically no AI ever. That's how it's supposed to be in the open source world. So create an article about insert topic. That is actually what people use these AIs for specifically, and then a prompt had to be constructed because yes, very unfortunate that the industry, very unfortunate that the people are not trying to be neutral or nice in the tech industry. Not trying to attack anyone specifically, but it's very unfortunate that there's a lot of hypocrisy in the industry specifically. But this is from the KiCad thread. Now, for distributions or distros packaging XLibre, Vipnix had a live CD available since June 12th. This is an evolution from Gentoo. It was Funtoo Funtoo is a derivative of Gentoo through Macaroni, by the way, to Vipnix. This is what happens. readme.md is recommended. This is a markdown, and then the ISO size is approximately 2.5 gigabytes. So this is about distros that package the XLibre. Again, there is a whole lot of possibilities. So introduction and packaging of XLibre. We are looking at Funtoo, and then, well, no, not Funtoo, but Vipnix specifically. I don't believe they remember exactly where in the mailing list Vipnix would have been. However, I do know for sure that the X11 Libre server and platform support does exist on Vipnix. And then this is from possible X11 Libre, by the way. Not X11 or Xorg, but X11 Libre, just XLibre community goals. For the XLibre X server fork of the drama of Xorg. So the community goals that we're speaking about in this specific situation, and this is prior to being unsubscribed, by the way. The general goals from the mailing list are application support, GTK, and Qt compatibility, including modern web browsing. So these are barriers to entry for XLibre. The concerns are that modern web browsers are built for Wayland, apparently, and the X11 binaries are preferred over Wayland binaries. And again, X11 is losing support, and a lot of the industry is moving over to Wayland. And then XLibre, the goal of XLibre is essentially to keep the systems and the ecosystem ethical, compared to Wayland anyway. Binaries, X11 binaries are preferred. So then potential avenues for success. So potential avenues for success that I've been able to identify include SDL, SFML, Raylib, WX widgets, Ladybird, and even the FLTK or Fastlight Toolkit, which, if I remember correctly, Fastlight Toolkit refused to even support Wayland, and select Linux and BSD distributions, such as dual support by the Open Mandriva distro. Dual support, I believe, with both XLibre and Wayland. Now, for understanding, the ultimate goal for the understanding is just to outperform Red Hat is the goal, with decisions regarding APIs, application programming interfaces, GTK and Qt interfacing, high-level architecture, and whatnot, including considerations for development virtual machines, declaration of development, and an anti-political community and sponsorship sphere. So that is the goal of understanding, and this is from the understanding thread of the XLibre. So ultimately, so it's a roadmap, a declared development team, and then a solid one beyond that, a new community of Libre software enthusiasts made by devs, developers, distro maintainers, and users that reject politics, some sponsors a supporting plan, and the first full release. So this is about the drama. Now, beyond the drama of the understanding of X11 Libre or just XLibre, network transparency is another thread from the X11 Libre mailing list. Historical application behavior was about pixelated graphics and compression, but modern application behavior is that damaged rectangles slowly resolve over the network. This is another concern about the XLibre, perhaps not necessarily just about XLibre, but about networking in general. However, the potential accusations were that it might have been about specifically just XLibre. So now let me look at the network transparency. So network transparency. So this was around June. So this started on June 21st. The network transparency issue was that it was frequently mentioned as a selling point for the XLibre, though the toolkits have rendered it as less efficient than it once was. Xize, Xedit, Xfontcell, these are from the old application behavior, not arguing for removal, and people using very old apps may still get some use out of it. Now, modern applications, X11, may cause damaged rectangles to slowly resolve over network, but older applications may just have pixelated graphics and compression. So, double standard and X11 Libre that is frequently mentioned. So, network transparency, they say it's a selling point, but not really, and some toolkits don't even take it seriously. So, it might not be about X11 specifically. Now, thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, hack the YouTube algorithm if you are interested in this type of tech news content. And until next time, and thanks for watching, signing off.